The Saints already knew coming into this free agency that they were going to have to get better on the defensive line. And after Monday, it's safe to say that need just got a little bit bigger.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back inside another edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast, brought to you by Boot Krewe Media. And this podcast episode is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. With the NCAA tournament coming up, make sure you guys use the promo code BOOT. And there's definitely a lot of advantages to that. If you bet $5 on college hoops, you get $200 in bonus bets instantly as long as you use our promo code. And that's a limited time offer for you guys with the first round of the NCAA tournament coming up. So make sure you don't miss it. So I said the Saints are in a little bit of a hole when it comes to the defensive tackle spot, and I'm not lying. And that's because they lost not just one, but two defensive linemen from this past season's team. And ironically enough, and probably crappy enough, they're actually staying in the NFC South. So it all started when the legal tampering window opened up on Monday. And as soon as it opens up, contracts are announced because in reality, they tampered far before it becomes legal. David Onyemata signs a deal with the Falcons. Now, to bring up the specifics of that deal for David Onyemata, it's actually pretty costly. So it's a 3-year, $35 million deal with about 24 of that being fully guaranteed. Now, make no mistake about it, it absolutely stings. David Onyemata is a player who the Saints drafted and developed extremely well. And I thought they would maybe bring him back. And even if they did that, it would still be a need to go get younger, get faster at defensive tackle. Well, he's out of the picture now, and he will be staying in the division. The Saints will have to get used to going up against him. So that definitely stinks. And then about, I'd say less than an hour later, you find out that Tuttle signing a 3-year, $19.5 million deal with the Panthers, where 13 of that is guaranteed at signing. So again, another player sticking in the NFC South, another player leaving the New Orleans Saints. And I think the initial reaction for some might be, oh, what is going on here? Like, that's not ideal. But when you think about it, would you have been necessarily leaping and jumping for joy if the Saints gave Tuttle about a 3-year, $20 million deal? Probably not. I know a lot of you would probably say that's an overpay, and I'm not going to talk about whether or not it is an overpay. I'm glad that Tuttle and David Onyemata both got their money. They've been really solid players for the Saints, specifically Onyemata for the last couple of years. They deserve to get paid, so it's not about that. What it is about, though, is that we can't take today's, I'd say, 2 losses and look at it and go, oh my God, this just opened up a hole for the Saints. No, this was the biggest need for them. It's been that, and it's been running back. And the fact that today didn't open up another hole for the Saints, that's the good news. Look, the bad news is you can't sugarcoat everything, and I'm not trying to do that. The Saints have to get better at defensive line, but you still have pick 29. You can still go out there and get better at defensive tackle. But I want to throw this in there while I'm at it. Even with Onyemata and Tuttle last year, I thought the Saints' defensive line, specifically in the interior, wasn't all that good. They were no longer stifling teams in the run like you were accustomed to seeing. They were no longer getting that elite pressure up the middle that they did. Now, it came alive towards the end of the season. I thought that was a big factor. But from week 1 to week 18, there wasn't this sustained dominance from the defensive line that we were accustomed to seeing with Dennis Allen's defense. So I think regardless, changes need to be made. I don't think these are the type of losses that I sit back and go, well now the Saints, they're screwed. No, absolutely not. They can still go and salvage this. And I do think that with the way they're constructed right now with the roster, I don't know if spending what would have been, 3-year 19 and a half and then 3-year 35, if that really was the key for them. We preach about retaining your own free agents, but so far the Saints have done that in bringing back Juwan Johnson, and now they're currently working with Michael Thomas. So if they could bring him back, you did what you need to do in that regard on the offensive side of the football. And there's nothing wrong with going out there and getting guys from different rosters, maybe some rookies in the building, and getting some fresh blood at defensive tackle, and I expect them to do just that. So are there moves that you're not happy about? Sure, especially because they stay in the NFC South. But for me, it's not moving the needle in such a damning direction. Of course, there's going to be people that are going to come up with different agendas and tell you the Saints lost these guys because they're running a Ponzi scheme and they don't know how to manipulate the cap, although they've been doing that for about a decade and a half. And that's going to be the story of today. But the funny thing is, while that is the story of Monday, for some people, just remember that the Saints already had the big splash, right? Well, while teams go out today and spend, and a lot of teams are doing that, the Saints already got probably one of the biggest free agents on the market in Derek Carr, and they spent an awful lot of money to make sure he comes to New Orleans. So it's just funny when that move happens, You don't really talk about the salary cap being a problem for them. But when the Saints lose a free agent, oh, we can't wait to mention the salary cap. And further to that point, there are teams today that are losing pretty good players. The Bills losing Tremaine Edmonds. You have the Eagles losing Hargrave. There are really good players in teams in the NFC leaving where they're going. Salary cap doesn't get mentioned. So I always find that fascinating. And again, people can believe whatever they want to believe. The truth is the truth. The Saints don't let the salary cap really be a detriment to what they want to do. If they want someone, they're going to find a way to do it. That's what they've been doing for years now, over a decade. So we'll see what happens. I think they had a price, as they always do, on guys like Onyemata and Tuttle. Once it goes over that price, it's, man, thank you for what you did. But it is what it is. You got to go get your money. And they did that. So can't be too mad about it. The Saints still have work to do. Make no mistake about that. But for now, it doesn't change much. Doesn't change much at all. Got to get better at defensive tackle. Got to dress a running back. Those aren't moves that the Saints necessarily need to make on day one. Maybe not even day two. I mean, we might wait till Wednesday or Thursday for the Saints to make a signing. Like, it's possible. So before people get up in arms and get a little anxious, just remember this team, they're usually at their best when they're not making the huge splashy signings on day one. CJ Spiller, Brandon Browner, Jarvis Byrd. Those didn't work out for the franchise. But those mid-tier guys that they get good value on, that works out. And let us not forget that the Saints last offseason, so we're going to go really recent here, got Tyrann Mathieu. And yeah, Tyrann Mathieu, first half of the season wasn't great. Second half of the season was. And this is coming from someone who was critical of him in September and October. He impressed the hell out of me in November, December, and January. So the Saints can wait it out if they have to, and there will be good vets for them to take advantage of. And I think they will be able to do that at some point. But it's going to have to come at defense tackle. It's also going to come at running back, and we'll see where they go from there. But it's day one. It's super early. And while it's easy to sound the alarms and start panicking and say, oh my God, what's next? You know what's next. And the Saints are going to explore the market like they always do. And I expect them to be savvy in that regard. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of days, next week. It's going to be fun times for the Saints, though. But my opinion has not changed them. I still think highly of this team relative to the rest of the NFC South. I still think they have a lot more work to go before they take that step and be considered a contender. And again, no one knows that. It's just March. But again, these moves do not exactly make me start doubting whatever the plan is. They can lose Marcus Davenport. They might lose Caden Ellis. The goal remains the same. They need to absolutely revamp this D-line. And sometimes, you know what? If it's losing guys and replenishing it completely, so be it. That might be the case for the Saints. We'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for this little brief edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. Thank you guys, as always, for listening. Stay tuned for more content, because if anything does break over the next couple of days, we'll have it here. So make sure to follow and subscribe to Boot Krewe Media's YouTube page. You click the notification bell to get notified when new videos like this drop. And until then, guys, keep it plugged in here on the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat